Alright everyone out there in Banjo land, Mike Heading here, coming to you today with a little mini banjo lesson. So I've been getting a lot of questions still from students about how to find the chords all over the neck, specifically major and minor chords. So I've broken this down in several other lessons, but since I've still been getting a lot of questions about it, I thought it'd be good to do a standalone review. So in this lesson, we'll break down the three main movable chord shapes, major and minor, and then kind of some little exercises you can do with these. All right, so let's jump into this lesson. Here we go. You might have heard of the three main movable shapes, the F shape, the D shape, and the bar. Those are the three you're going to want to know. So each chord is going to have each of those versions that you can play on the neck, right? So if you have a G chord that you want to find, you can play your F-shaped G, you can play your D-shaped G, and you can play your bar-shaped G. There's other versions of the chords, but those are the three that you want to remember for movable chords, okay? So this might be a little bit of a review, but that's okay. So let's learn the F shape first. So we're going to be at our 5th fret, right where you've got your 5th string tuner. I'm going to put my ring finger on the 4th string 5th fret. I'm going to put my middle finger on the 4th fret 3rd string. Index finger 3rd fret 2nd string. And pinky way up on the 5th fret of the 1st string. And that's the chord I'm going to use. You're going to omit the 5th string, so it's just a 4-finger chord. You can thumb on the 4th string and then pinch. You can roll. So wherever you move this shape, those are all different chords, right? In this case, the root note, which you want to remember, is on the 4th string and the 1st string, since these are tuned to be the same note. Okay, so that's our G. Both of those are G notes, and that's what's determining this chord. So wherever you move that shape, whichever note this note on the 4th string or 1st string really is, that's the chord we're playing, okay? So that's our F-shaped G chord. To make that minor, all you do is you take off your middle finger and you bar your 1st finger. So you can kind of see my thumb will drop down, and then I'm kind of turning my index finger to the side. Let me get my middle finger out of the way so you can see that. I wouldn't normally play it like this, but I'm just moving my middle finger so you can see it, right? So it's like that. So I'm going from major, you can hear it kind of happy, to minor. And if you're having trouble with this one, the other thing you can do is take off your ring finger and just play kind of the top 3. Again, I'll get them out of the way so you can see. Like that, right? So that's the chord you want to remember. So any version like that, that's major. This is minor. The other thing you want to learn with these shapes is be able to visualize it in different finger combinations, right? So you might not always see a 4-finger version. You might see, again, I'll get my fingers out of the way, a 3-finger version. You might see a 2-finger version. You might see 2 fingers like this, right? You might see these two, right? So you want to get used to, think of this whole shape as the chord, but you might not always see it like this, right? You might see it just like this. Right? If I was playing really fast, I might just play the top 3 strings. You know, or again, same with the minor. I might just play the top 3 strings. So get used to that, seeing that in different combinations. Or I might just play the low strings, right? You don't always have to put down all the fingers, okay? So that's the F shape. So get used to playing that one in major and minor. It's also good practice just to hear that major versus minor. See if your ear can pick up on that, so you can start identifying if the chords that you're hearing in a song are major, kind of happy, or minor, kind of spooky, right? Okay, so the next one is the D shape. So if we go up to the 9th fret, keep these 2 fingers on a track, your ring finger and pinky, slide them up to the 9th fret. And then what you're going to do is, to go from the F shape, all you do is you just flip these 2 fingers. So your middle finger goes down 1 string, your index finger goes up. You just flip them. See how I just flip them like that. So that's my D-shaped G chord. Again, you can vamp, roll. In this one, the root note is on the 2nd string. Okay, so anywhere that note is, that's my chord. So in this case, that's our G note, right? That's where the 5th string is the same. So that's how we're getting that G chord, D-shaped G chord there, okay? To make that one minor, it's a little trickier, but here's what you do. You have to take both of these notes and move them down one. So what I do is I move my middle finger. If I want to do the four finger chord, I move my middle finger down to the, what is that, the 8th fret of the 4th string, and then I have my other 2 fingers take over. Right? Because you're here, and you need both these 2 notes to go down. So if you just like kind of scrunch them down like that, it's pretty challenging, right? I mean, you maybe could do it, but what I do is I basically flip. So I go into that shape. Again, same with that one. The other one, you might see that a lot of times with just like the top 3 strings. A lot of times I won't even go into this full shape. You can, but I might just play the top 3 like that. So one thing you could practice is like rolling on each version. So you could do like a forward reverse roll on each chord. Again, I'm just playing the top 3 strings, right? Try it minor. Right, so that's my D shape, okay? Major and minor. And then lastly, you got the bar shape. So at the 12th fret, if you bar it with your index finger, that's kind of like the easiest way to do it. But again, in practice, I almost will never just do a 1-finger bar chord. The only time I really do that is if I'm trying to grab notes that are higher. Mainly, I'll do it like this with 3 fingers. For me, it's easier to I basically just slide my pinky up, and then I let my other 2 fingers take over. See, and then I can just slide my pinky back down to shift back to that other shape. Now my pinky's kind of just the anchor. If I do it this way, then I have to flip, which is okay, but then when you flip back, you're going to hear more of a break in the sound, where if I do it this way, okay? And then to make that one minor, you can also play this low string down here if you want, but again, in practice, I usually won't do that. But to make this one minor, you take your 2nd string and you move it down 1 fret. So what I do is I just flip. So my ring finger is going to go up, and my middle finger goes down. So let's see if you can see that on the camera. So I'm going from this 12, 12, 12 to 12, 11, 12. If you want the full chord, the other way you can do it is like this. So I'm here in major with all of them down, and then I kind of let my my middle finger go to the 4th string, ring finger goes to the 3rd string, and then my index finger takes over. So I have 12, 12, 11, 12. That one you can practice going back to this one. You flip. So when I slide up to the next shape, my middle index finger and ring finger flip. See that? The other 2 fingers are staying down. And then back down like this. But like I said, a lot of times I won't do those full chords in practice. I'll do this. Like that. Okay, so those are the 3 main shapes you want to remember, major and minor. F shape, D shape, and bar shape. So like what worked for me was kind of saying them out loud, running them up and down. Let me show you a few exercises you can do. So the first thing you can do is just hang out on one chord. Let's say you have a long section of G. Now I can start adding in those other shapes. I can actually go all the way up to an F shape way up here, right? The pattern actually starts over. And I have one more D shape way up here, if you can see that. Right? So I'm just using that same pattern. So you could go. You could do the same thing on like C. Start on your F-shaped C chord here. So again, that'd be like a way you could start spelling out some different chords. But where I think this really works well is if you just have a long section of one chord, rather than just hanging in one shape, which is kind of like more of a beginner thing to do. You know, you don't have to move your left hand at all, but it gets a little monotonous after a while. So what you can do is, even if you keep your right hand the same, thing you can do is practice it without using the fifth string, so it'll be more, you can move it around easier. The fifth string won't always work, so you could practice, just do like forward roll. Something like that. Again, so then you can move that into whatever key you want. So the other thing that's really good practice with this is like, again, we talked about hearing the difference between major and minor. So let's do like kind of a little minor major jam. So like we could do G minor to F. That'd be like if you've heard the song Kentucky Mandolin, or a lot of songs will kind of play with that major, or excuse me, that minor, and then going down to the major flat 7 chord. So what you could practice is like do like G minor. Now let's go down to F. So I'm going to do my F shape F chord down here, and then F shape D chord. The other thing I do is I always add like a little bit of a slide sound. Like that, you can hear that. You try your other shapes. You got your F here, right? So like that'd be something you could practice and try speeding it up a little bit. So I'm just kind of going up and down, but you don't always have to go straight up and down, right? You could skip them. Right? So you don't have to go straight. You don't always have to go right up and down them, right? You could go every other, like that or something, just to create some interest. And like I said, what I found was helpful for me is like, it kind of sounds silly, but like saying them out loud, like F shape, D shape, bar, F shape, you know, bar, D shape. Really, the more you can get those in your head, the better. And the real test is when you go to a jam and there's like lots of stuff going on, can you remember them, right? It's one thing to be able to kind of do it as a little exercise in your house by yourself, which is, I mean, obviously good practice. But the real test is like, can you kind of remember those when you get into a jam where there's a bunch of other stuff going on? So that's why I think saying, obviously you're not going to say it out loud at the jam, but really saying it out loud while you're practicing it really helps you reinforce it. So you can start to visualize those shapes. Because that's also where your melodies are going to come up the neck, right? So if I was in G major, right, my melodies are going to come from those shapes as well. You know, so again, that's where your melodies are coming from as well. So that's why it's really important to know those shapes, right? So practice on major and then practice on minor. You can get some good ear training. You're going to get some good practice moving all over the neck. Try and incorporate some other chords as well. You can do like G, C, D. Obviously, that's a basic one. The most simple form is always staying in one shape, right? So that's the simplest way because you don't have to move your left hand. You don't have to flip fingers. But you can see I end up doing a lot of this, right? You end up moving around a lot more, which is going to be trickier at a faster tempo, right? So what you want to practice eventually is finding the next chord, but in a different shape. So if I'm here, my C, the next one actually is right here. I could do a bar C right here. And then I could do my D shape D here, or my D shape bar, or excuse me, my bar shape D chord. Right? So now I can play that same progression that I was doing like this, but now I can move a lot less, right? Instead of right? So you can do the same thing with minor, right? Usually the 5 chord won't be minor, it'll be major. So you would do like G minor, C minor here, that's my bar shaped C with the minor version. And then I'd probably just do like regular D or D7, right? Right, so you could do it this way as well. And then maybe way up here. Again, if these get tight, just do 3-finger versions of them, right? obviously you can do more advanced rolls once you get it down, right? You don't always have to stay on the same roll the whole time too. You could do forward reverse roll, forward roll. You're right. So there's gonna be a lot of other stuff you can eventually do with that, right? Switch up the roll, switch up the shapes. You know, I don't want to overwhelm you in one lesson, but really just get used to playing these. You can't get too much practice with these. You're really gonna need to just have these on autopilot so you can really nail them. And that's where keeping the fingerings the same, you can notice how I'm using my pinky as that anchor point, right? To smooth out all those chords rather than flipping. And then anytime you're taking your hand off the fretboard completely, right? You're going to hear a break in the sound. So that's another thing you can practice is looking for those little connections where I'm using my pinky to smooth those shapes out. And I'm using those little fake slides, you know. I'm just looking for those little things that help smooth out those transitions. So that's really good practice. All right, so practice it major and minor. And maybe if you have a song you're working on, see if you can find those shapes for that song. That'd be really good practice. All right, hopefully that helps you out. Good luck and keep picking. You got this.